Welcome to White Women Wake Up. I'm Jonelle.
And I'm Karen.
Each week, one of us brings a topic to the table, something we've been wrestling with, reading about, or noticing in our own lives.
And the other reacts in real time. No scripts, no prep, just honest intergenerational conversation about what it means to wake up as white women in a world shaped by bias, power, and inherited patterns.
We don't always agree, and it's not always comfortable, but we show up anyways. So let's wake up
together.
Oh.
Wow, great new intro script.
we got to work on the togetherness. Let's wake up together.
I really appreciate that because I think it's good to be clarity. Yeah. Everything we've been talking about, clarity.
Well, I brought up last time, and I feel like with all the new listeners, we're not really giving them a glimpse into our format. And so it's a good reminder of what our format is. And normally we start into reflections from last week, so I can start, but then also it will be Karen's topic today, too. So everyone, I'm the blind reactor.
You're the blind reactor. Hey, so did you work on just kind of interaction, I think what I heard from you, too, is trying to let people be who they are and trusting their lived experiences and helping them to clarify the standards in which they desire to live by.
I mean, yes, I think that was an essence of the episode. For reflection, I just asked people where in their world are they maybe not always accepting of someone and how can they step back and accept those people for who they are.
And especially people who have any kind of neurodiversity or disability so that we can actually let human beings be.
I'm not saying accept abusive relationships. That's a whole other ball.
Actually, that's going to work into my topic a little bit.
Well, because we always think about the same things.
Anyways, again, I don't think it's always easy because sometimes you want people to just do what you want them to do. And so sometimes really it takes time. I think that's what I kind of reflected on a lot this week. This idea of, okay, I got to step back. I got to take some time to listen. I don't have to rush in with my own expectations.
And I have to say, you do a really good job of that. I know it's hard on you, but you have two very neurodiverse people in your life, my dad and me. And patience is not always your strong suit.
No, and I like to get things done
and done in your way and stuff. And so this is something you've really worked on, and I think you do a really good job of it.
We had a outing a couple weeks ago, and you and I both went into the outing like, no expectations. And I think that was one of the things that we ended up having a lot of fun in this outing because we just kind of let people be who they wanted to be.
And for context, it's not just an out. This is like a group event. We love it every year, but we have at least 15. This year was a small group of 15.
Yeah.
Some years it's 25 to 27 people, all at our 2-bedroom cabin and stuff. and in the past, we have been very trying to, stressed about keeping people within our expectations.
Yeah.
And the reality is the time that we have
people
the most
fun, are going to do what they want to do.
They're going to do what they're going to do. And we love everyone for who they are.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we love everyone for who they are.
Yeah.
And so we do want them to feel at home and loved. And I think the funny thing that came up about that week, though, is I think we have a lot more internal struggles than we sometimes do externally.
Yeah.
Because the feedback that we kept getting is no one ever realized that we have been stressed in the past. One of my favorite comments was someone was saying is like, well, you guys are just so hospitable and friendly. Like, I guess it makes sense you have internal struggle because everyone internally gets stressed when they're hosting. But I've never thought of you like that. And so it was such a freeing thing.
And deep down, I don't think I'm an easygoing person.
No. But it was such a freeing thing that, like, it's great to see that a lot of them never saw our external struggles. And so why, if they're not seeing it, why are we internally letting ourselves live into that turmoil and stress?
We're going on a tangent.
Sorry.
No. That's okay because I do think it's interesting. I think yes and yes.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is you don't want everyone to think you're easygoing at your own expense.
Correct.
So if there's moments that is too much.
Yes.
Being authentic, not yelling at people, not making people feel bad, like feel a victim or feel shamed, but being authentic. I think also expectations, like, again, there's so many things about how much do you clean, how much do you do, and at a certain point, letting go of those expectations. Because, we could, speaking of neurodiversity, my husband decided to start tearing up our deck 10 minutes before
everyone
people were
showed
coming.
Up.
So I thought, okay, well, what the heck? They just fall in. I don't know.
Well, who knows?
So I've got the topic today, and it is based on some of my experiences in the last couple weeks. So I want to talk about the relationship of interdependency and how, when we're not interdependent, it can keep us into our isms. It living an interdependent life is actually anti-racist work.
Okay,
and I want to, or anti-ism work. We shouldn't just say racist. So in other words, the definition of interdependence is mutual reliance between people or groups where care, responsibility, and growth are shared.
Okay.
Not hoarded or performed. It's not codependent or helplessness. It's the understanding that we need each other, not because we're broken, but because we're human. I have two examples.
Okay, wait, just backing up a little bit for the audience, because I have some context, is in our family, we talk a lot about a codependent relationship.
Yeah.
This is something that has been a family storyline of ours forever, is the balance between codependency and independence. And interdependency has been a hard balance
in
for
between.
us to reach.
So my mother was very much into the codependent movement.
Yes.
And CODA, which it's known for. And I'm thankful because I think so codependency, let me explain. I've got that definition, is an unhealthy pattern of behavior where one person prioritizes another's needs, emotions, or approval over their own, often losing a sense of self in the process.
Yes.
So I can give you an example of codependency. My husband can be very codependent. And what happens is he often thinks I need something without stopping to ask what it is that I need. He just does it. And then he gets angry or his reaction is anger or sadness because I don't appreciate in the way that he thought I would want to, or it wasn't something I'd even asked for. That's a typical codependent relationship. Instead of him saying, hey, would you like me to do this? And us talking it through, he has presumptions, and then he has a presumption of my response to the outcome of it.
Well, and we've experienced this in our relationships where you've projected a lot on me. That you've projected things that you think would better me or help me, and I haven't asked for them. And then sometimes you feel martyred by it because I haven't appreciated it in the same way. Now, this is past history, but that is a codependency.
Yeah. So the flip side in our family system, which is very common in a capitalistic white standard system, is independence, not dependence, independence, because you have codependent where I'm projecting on you. You have dependence where something is, I was just in the hospital, I need help.
Yeah.
And then you have independence, which is to do everything on your own. So I'm going to give two examples this summer of my independence and then my interdependence.
Okay.
And how the result of interdependence was shaped so much stronger. So anyways, my independence. My husband and I were replacing a toilet in our cabin, and my husband is a little slower, and I got impatient. So I thought I could bring this brand new toilet up 2 flights of stairs on my own. And so I was independent.
And listeners, you can imagine what happened.
Yeah, what happened? I dropped it. I broke a brand new toilet. Luckily, what I learned later from the guy at Home Depot is ceramics crash, and I could have really cut myself and severed myself, but I didn't.
Insert image here if you're watching online. We'll see if I can find.
I have the image. I have to say, my husband was very funny. He said, "Do you think we could glue it back together, or do you think we could return it?" But it was pretty damaged. But that was a good example of, I can do it. I'm going to do it on my own. It was clearly a bigger weight than I could carry. It was, I had no interdependence in that space. I had another scenario that happened a couple weeks ago, and it was beyond my capability. It was a health scare with my husband, and I knew it was beyond my capability. I went to the ER. We took him to the ER, and there was really no conclusive evidence after the ER. And so I talked with you and your brother, and I really walked through it.
Yeah.
I really walked through it with my sister and another friend. And I remember really actually in the middle of it asking God for guidance because it was beyond me.
Yes.
I had never had anything like this happen before. And fortunately, through the grace of God, there was resolve, and it's not, I think we'll be okay. But I really learned the value of walking through something with a community in an interdependent way. And so I thought about how often my independence isolates me.
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking, wow, isolation is a perfect example of us walking into our isms. Yes. So I did some research, and there's the lone wolf theory.
Okay.
But there's also research that, basically when we try to live a life of interdependence, which is you and I, learning from one another, walking alongside, being vulnerable, we actually are really, truly in a journey of anti-isms. And yet, and I'm not talking, so then I even went deeper. What about, okay, I feel good about myself. I've hired a cleaning lady, or I've hired services because I know it's above and beyond me. And one of the things is, in my research, the language of transaction came up a lot. Like, if you're interdependent, but the interdependence is on transaction, that is not the same as community building.
Because if I can...
So jump in, because I want a conversation about it. It was really eye-opening to me.
Because transaction means, in my mind, you still have a power dominance.
Yeah, that was the textbook.
Yeah.
Is that transaction specific brings in that language of power.
Yeah.
And if you're really doing any kind of equity work, it is about redistributing the power dynamics.
Yeah.
And so go for it. Tell me about a situation that you may have had.
Well, I think it's something interesting you bring up, because for our audience listeners, a lot who are mothers out there too, I think, as you talked about, like, independence is really built by this capitalist society, but codependence is really built in motherhood. Is this around sacrificing your needs for everything your children have? And I think, especially your generation, I think was a big part of put everything first for your kids. It's kids are number one. And my generation...
At the loss of ourselves.
At the loss of yourself, which is codependency.
And not only at the loss of yourself, and in many ways,
the loss of your partnership, your marriage.
Or the loss of your children's autonomy. I think, I understand, I really appreciate you putting this forward, because when my mom was really into that, we need to be independent, I was like, but my mom, I got meals for the kids. I mean, they're not paying for their shoes. Yeah. So there's this language of what can someone take on and what can't they take on, and how do you work interdependently?
Yeah. And so I think this is what I'm trying to say is, I think in my generation, a lot of the tools that we've been fed, whether they're right or wrong, is one of my favorite mentalities is the whole idea of the masks on the plane.
Yeah.
And now, pray to God, no one ever has to experience a mask coming on the plane. But you know how they always say, secure your mask before securing others. And so I love that analogy because basically it says, if you take the time to secure others' masks, you might be passed out and you can't secure your own.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing in life, in motherhood. You got to secure your own oxygen before you have the energy and oxygen to help everyone else.
And
I'm not saying it's easy.
But I also think that statement is a little problematic.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. It says, I have agency as long as I'm controlling it. What if I needed someone to put my oxygen mask on me?
Well, but this is my point. No, that is part of. This is part of the independency. Is what I'm saying is part of your oxygen mask may be having your partner take on things. It may be reaching out to your community. But
I think yes, you're right. But I think a lot of times.
But that is part of your oxygen mask.
So in other words,
is what I'm
you're
saying.
using the oxygen mask more as a metaphor for self-reflection.
And
self-understanding so that you can then move out
and support
to your community.
Exactly.
So some of the reasons, first of all, I want to talk about is why we don't do it.
Yeah.
Why we don't do it.
I think what I was just trying to say is level set with our listeners of if you don't do that right now, like these are the reasons why. Like it's okay.
Well,
and
here's one of the
that's
reasons
what I was
is fear of feedback. We don't usually, and I totally get this. Not usually. There are times that we don't go beyond ourselves because we don't want the feedback of others.
Yeah.
Now, the scary thing is, as a person who gives feedback, it is a lesson to me because maybe we all who someone's in need want to give feedback. I did it to my sister today. Now that I think about it, she's in need of a situation. And what do? But I did.
First thing is to fix it. And that's not
First thing
what
is to fix
need.
it. That was another one here. This desire to fix. So one thing I did do after I caught myself, I did say, "Hey, do you even want my advice?"
Great.
And she did say, "No."
Great. Well, we even did that a couple weeks ago. I walked in. I don't even remember what the problem is because that's the point. The problem was not even big. And I start talking and you look at me and I immediately go, I don't want your resolution. And you go, you're right. You didn't ask me for that. And I'm like, exactly. And so, but that takes a lot of practice for us to be able to do that. That's not always. So again, to your point, it's more going internally and not immediately putting a solution on someone.
So what's interesting about this topic of interdependence is it takes all sides, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It takes us to have the courage to reach out for help.
Which is a lot of courage.
Or reach out to be part of community. And to actually not just reach out transactionally, but to actually reach out in a community.
Yes.
So that's one. And that's one. And then the flip side of that is how then are we that person? Like, why are we part of the system that helps other people fear because of feedback? Right?
Wait, unpack
so in other
that
words, so in other words, I reach out to you, but one of the reasons I might not reach out to you is because you're going to give me this feedback.
And you're fearful.
And I'm fearful of that. Now, again, everybody, one of the things we have to talk with our listeners is, of course, you do need to reach out to trusted sources because if someone isn't capable
or they're not healthy for you,
if they're not healthy or they're judgmental or all that, but if we're considered one of the judgmental persons or the unhealthy persons, I have to work on how do I walk alongside something? Because that's part of this cycle of interdependence.
It is. Well, and not to be a broken record, but this continues to go back what we're talking about of the discomfort cycle. And it's all about sitting in our uncomfortability and sitting in, and again, when we talk about the discomfort cycle, it's not in an abusive way. Like we don't want you to feel icky in an abuse situation. Discomfort is about checking some of the norms that we've, quote unquote, norms we've been taught our whole lives and kind of flipping them around. Like, why does this situation make you uncomfortable? Why does listening to someone else's pain and not fixing it make you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Why does asking for help
because it
make
is
you
setting
uncomfortable?
up systems where we're not interdependent on each other. It is interesting. I like
you mean we need to set up systems to be interdependent.
It is keeping us from setting up systems to be interdependent. Thank you for clarifying that. It is interesting when you talk about the discomfort cycle. I think about it a lot like exercise.
Yeah.
You know, when you're first exercising a new movement and it's sore, it doesn't mean it's bad.
No,
it's just sore. You're exercising a new movement.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and you're right. And the more we sit into, like, I sit in discomfort all the time, but I am very comfortable around it now.
Yeah. So here's one. Individualism, a core feature of white supremacy culture. It teaches us to fix instead of feel, to perform instead of practice, and to manage discomfort through control, not connection.
Okay.
So, and I think that that's a really, like, if you're thinking about your interdependence from a transactional space, that's a place where, you know, I have someone that I don't have someone clean my house, but let's say I did have someone clean my house. I would tell them exactly what I wanted them to do. I would be controlling the situation, and I might not even have to interact with that situation. I might not get to know who their family is or what's about with them. And so I think that I don't have to connect. I can leave a note and simply say that. So, and no one, we're not saying...
You're right, asking for help does open up to, you have to be okay with someone helping you in the way that fits them.
Yeah.
And that supports your needs, but it might be different than your expectations.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that transactional, like getting a cleaning lady, is the wrong thing to do. But at what point do we think that that is the language of interconnection?
Well, there's got to be a better
interdependence. But I will. Okay,
there's got to be a better analogy than getting a cleaning lady.
I'm going to give a good analogy here.
Okay.
When my mother was dying, I was so stressed out.
Yeah.
I did not want to act with any of the caregivers in the hospital. I wanted to just focus on my mom. My sister, on the other hand, she was so relational. I mean, I actually got annoyed with her. She was so relational. And because of it, we had people caring for us. We had people there. And I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't want to connect with these caregivers. Maybe there was fear. In hindsight, looking at that, because that is this, maybe it was control because I wanted to control the outcome of my mother's dying process.
Yeah.
I don't know, but interdependence, like, I guess what I learned in this last experience is I felt so much lighter by really relying on you and your brother, really relying on my friends than I would have if I kept it in my own self. And consequently, you all were vulnerable with the things that you knew or what was going on. Like, vulnerability ends up blossoming in authenticity.
Well, and what was different, I think, even this time is, like, sometimes you're forced into interdependence.
Yeah.
And so in that instance with Grandma, you were forced into, she was in a hospital, so people had to help her. And so exactly, you had to reject it. I think, or even it's easy for us to say, well, I asked for help, but I didn't get to feel rejected around it and stuff. But that's also not fully leaning into the interdependency. So like you're saying with this example, you really did just let go and lean in to others in this. So you were stressed, rightfully so, but you also understood that community
really took advice.
You took advice. Community would come around you. It was going to be okay based on what we had to do and stuff. And it did bring at least a lighter outcome to you. And the reality is, and this is, I guess, what I'm going back to then about put your oxygen mask on first. In this case, Dad's not a child, but Dad was still, you had to summon a caregiver for this situation. And you, in order to be the best caregiver you could be with him, you needed to put your oxygen mask on first.
I needed to stay calm.
And in order to do that, it was building your interdependency with community.
Yeah, and it was funny. I felt like, it's interesting because we see this a lot in big tragedies. Like there's a flood. Everyone in the neighborhood comes out and helps with the flood.
Yeah.
And every time we see that kind of tragedy, when it's so beyond people's capability, they naturally begin to reach out.
Yeah.
The challenge is, then we go back into our little holes, or I go back into my little holes. I become fixated with how I'm going to control my own situation. We talked about this a little bit, how we view, our taxes or our harms, that we're not interdependent on each other and community building. And so
what?
Well, you and I forget that one. That's another conversation, but they're connected. But one of the things
are you talking about, for reference, like taxes, in the sense that taxes help build community,
and yet we victimize that it's all that we're
that
getting,
it's affected by us,
just us, not everybody else.
Yeah.
But one of the things that when I was doing more research on how interdependence can be anti-racist work, or how you can do that. And I don't mean to just say anti-racist. I'm just saying it's work so that we can get to know each other and get to know each other who we are authentically at.
Yeah.
One of the things is, they say we need to figure out how to offer feedback in real time.
Okay.
So often, I know myself, I am not patient.
Yeah.
I don't want other people's opinion because I want to just move forward.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that I could be stronger in my interdependence is, and actually this is connecting the dots just right now for me. One of the core things of critical thinking is asking other people for their points of
growth
view.
mindset.
Growth mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one is making space for a collective reflection.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, as I'm reading this, and I'm reading this out loud and doing this research, you and your brother and I were on a shared telephone call often in this situation, in my situation, so that we could collectively try to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, isn't it?
It is.
And then this is a big one, reminding ourselves that we are not the center.
Oh,
that's really hard. And it's really hard in our society today because we are taking everything so personally and everything at the core of the center. So I think in the case that I was talking about, where I really had to be interdependent, is it wasn't about how I could fix it.
Yeah.
It was about how we could move forward in the best possible way for Dad.
Yeah.
And
so then I have a question.
Yeah, do.
How do we build interdependent communities? So I think so often, so you're talking about this anti-racism work, we're talking about, and so I think so often as like a white woman, our first inclination to building a community is volunteering, is becoming a white savior and volunteering. But what I'm hearing from some of this work is, though that's helpful, that again still putting us in a power position and not in an independent position and not an interdependent in the community. So what are ways that we can become interdependent within our community?
Great question. So I think one of the big things that, at least I can speak for myself and doing research, is the moment it gets tough, you want to run.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay in the relationship. And one of the nice things about a power relationship, even a volunteer relationship,
you can walk away.
You can walk away. You can say, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to get involved. This person is really dysfunctional. I can't handle it. And we're not talking about abuse. If you're in an abusive situation, you do need to
walk away,
set boundaries and walk away.
But so then what are the examples of things that people can
one
do?
Of the things they talk about is repair instead of retreat. You know,
I understand that, but what are the tangible things we're asking people to go look for?
For example, relationships are key.
Yeah.
So first of all, walking into something and vulnerability is one, right? You being vulnerable ourselves.
Still not answering my question of like tangible things.
Okay.
That like, is it?
Okay, so I've got a list here.
Okay.
Naming your people. Who do you trust to hold you accountable without shame? So naming your people and who's going to help hold you accountable in this space so you don't go run off and isolate.
So I guess I'm stepping back even further.
Yeah.
I'm talking about where are places that people can even find an interdependent community?
Well,
that's what I'm saying. How can you build that for yourself?
I think
not just the general of be vulnerable or reach out to safe people.
Now you're doing to me what you were so good the other day.
No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm stepping further back.
You were really good to me the other day when I'm like, oh, should I sell all my property? I think it should get as simple as what I did. You were my people in that case. I did not run.
Totally. But what I'm saying is for people who might not have this in their life.
Yeah.
How do people build without volunteering?
Is there a neighbor that you trust? Is there someone in your community that you actually reach out a little bit more?
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Because trust is part of it.
Is it?
And then do you ask them for some help?
Okay.
Do you offer some help? Remember the big ticket here is power. As long as there's not transaction with power in the inner relationship, then you're doing the work, right?
So that's what I'm looking for, tangible examples of...
And I think the reason why this is considered anti-bias work or anti-racist work is once we get to know each other, once we get to step into our relationship, we're going to see each other different. We're going to respond differently. We're going to live a world of trust and care. A good example, one of my mom's caregivers started reaching out to me and we started a dialogue. And I'm so, given my family history, I don't trust. And you simply said, Mom, maybe this person wants a friend.
Just a friend.
And so it's been interesting and now we haven't helped each other out yet, but
you still built a little community.
And I'm calling her and she's calling me.
Yeah.
We send each other text every day. And so there's this community. We're getting an independent community of support.
Which I love.
So I think the reason it's considered anti-bias work is because it's work that allows you to step in a relationship and begin to know people for who they are.
I love that.
And so by being interdependent, we move away from these spaces of isolation and independence.
I love that.
And by being conscious that it's not transactional, like, sure, I'm in a relationship with my program coordinator. We're both in a work relationship.
Yeah.
Will this exist outside of this work? I don't know.
Probably not.
But maybe I need to think about that.
But given your power dynamics, maybe not.
But maybe
you're her boss.
Maybe I need to think about it, and then we do things outside of that space where the power dynamics are equal.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's something to think about.
Well, and that's what I was kind of asking is like setting people up. How do people even set up these relationships? Is it a book club? Is it like, I love what you said, reaching out to your neighbor?
Yeah.
Is it, I think beyond some of these, like, again, the tendency of, okay, I want to do anti-bias work, anti-racist work. The white woman tendency is to volunteer.
Yeah.
And clearly that's a transactional. And so what are also ways you can still volunteer but not have that be your interdependent community and recognize that is a different
and if we use your analogy of the oxygen mask, and I know we have to go, so we're just about ready out. But if you use your analogy of the oxygen mask, you're not putting it on so that you're going to charge someone afterwards.
Yeah.
You're putting it on so that you can give and care.
Totally. And maybe you'll get fulfilled
by giving and caring.
By giving and caring, by volunteering.
And you're not saying I'm a stronger person than you are. You're actually seeing that we're here to help each other.
Or I guess what I'm trying to say is like you might get fulfilled by that, but that's also not going to be your independent interdependent community.
Yeah.
That's still, you're still independent within that.
Yeah.
It's how do we then find...
I guess one way to start in a small way is where are the spaces in your life where you're constantly seeking out independence rather than community? And where are the spaces, if you are seeking out this interdependence, are they transactional
Yeah.
rather than, and where is the power distributed differently?
Yeah.
You know, I have more than you have. So maybe thinking that through.
And how can you find interdependent community?
Yeah.
How can you open yourself up to be authentic in that way?
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on White Women Wake Up. We hope today's conversation sparks something in you, whether it's a reflection, a question, or a new way of seeing the world. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave us a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. You can also connect with us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Substack, or whitewomenwakeup.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts and keep the dialogue going. Please, 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 if you have any questions, reach out to us at hello@whitewomenwakeup.com. Until next time, stay curious, be open, and let's keep waking up.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Sorry, I haven't. Oh, it's recording. Hi.
Hi. Oh, God, you have a little like
an echo?
There's like a.
Is it now?
No, it's fine. You were just moving the mic. And it was a lot. It was a lot in my ear. I was like, oh. Yeah.
Okay.